Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be talking about V2 retail ka result. What went down in the con call, what happened, with the result, how does the guidance look like for the upcoming year, is the pace of growth coming down or not, all of it we will discuss. And obviously, how does a 1 year forward P look like, what's the valuation like, okay? We will also be doing a peer-to-peer with Bazaar style retail, which is a closest competitor to V2 retail, okay? In another video, I will probably take an Excel and so we can have all the data in one place. I will do a video comparing all the retail apparel, where it is. इस video में मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी because too many numbers. If I'm just talking like that, you might also get confused. So V2 retail, Bazaar style, Trend, Go Colors, Aditya Birla Fashion, Shoppers Stop, all of these value fashion retail apparel space में जो है, all of the company we will talk about it, in race, कहाँ पे किस position में कौन है, ठीक है? But as of now, if you see, we will compare it with Bazaar style retail because that is the one closest in terms of not only the business model, but जो who has the possibility, या probability है जिसका V2 retail को टक्कर का competition देने के लिए, ठीक है? So first let us start with V2 retail. See, we knew from the update, ठीक है, from looking at the Q4FY25 update, we knew that V2 retail was leading the race, right? We saw that V2 retail grew its sale by 62. अगर आप बाजार स्टाइल रिटेल का देखते हो, बाजार स्टाइल का रिटेल ग्रो बाय 55% in Q4 and 35% on a year on year basis. अगर आप V2 retail का देखते हो, it grew by roughly 65% both on a Q4 as well as on a year on year basis, ठीक है? So just with respect to sales growth, we knew that one was V2 retail was leading the race. Another thing was, is Q4 में, there was Eid, ठीक है? Usually Eid falls in Q1, but this time we saw that Eid was a bit early, and as a result, Eid ka sales got clocked in Q4, which was a huge win for a lot of value, ये जो retail space में है, it was a big win, ठीक है? But one thing is you have to know that whatever they show in updates, it can be completely, there is a very high possibility also कि like, sorry, not possibility, wrong English, but there is a very high probability that, ये जो update में है, and when the con call comes out, पूरा बाजार ही, the entire game can change at the end of the day, ठीक है? You will also see that in the jewelry space, right? Gadgil, जिसका update उतना कुछ शानदार नहीं था, कॉन कॉल में अगर आप देखते हो, पूरा what do you tell in Hindi, बाजार ही पलट गया, something, yeah, I think that's the right phrase, right? So similarly over here, we'll have to see like, whatever we saw in the update, will that pace continue, will that kind of momentum continue, and will V2 continue to hold the number one position in the race like it did, in the updates and the consequent quarters before that, ठीक है? Now over here, if you look, ठीक है, V2 retail का sales grew very strong. We also know one thing that was most important over here is, profits कैसा दिखेगा, because V2 retail का this is the first year, this is the first year where every quarter they have become an EBITDA positive में था, because before that V2 retail was a loss making company ना, इसका पूरा journey था loss to profit से, ठीक है? And one we saw that, in Q2 of this year उसका, profitability में, it was not a great show of numbers, ठीक है? Because Q2 was also lean quarter. So another thing was Q4 में भी ऐसा ही कुछ हो सकता है. But to the surprise, it wasn't that way, because if you look at profitability, profits अगर आप देखते हो, it grew by 70%, I think 78% odd in terms of Q4 on Q4, and 160%, 159% year on year respectively, to be precise, ठीक है? So huge amount of operating leverage मिला. अगर आप EBITDA margins भी देखते हो, EBITDA margin was at around 8 to 9%. अगर आप PAT margin देखते हो, PAT margin was at 4.6 versus earlier, roughly around 2 to 3%. So overall, on all parameters, great improvement, ठीक है? और एक चीज है, as of March 31st, if you see, they had 189 stores, ठीक है? And as of now, उनका latest update अगर आप देखते हो BSE में, they told they had opened 200 stores, ठीक है? So store count is also going very fabulous. कॉन कॉल में ये बोला गया था उनका, ठीक है? First of all, volume growth very तगड़ा, volume growth is at 43%, so great in terms of volume growth. Value growth जो था, if you look at their average selling price increased by 12%, ठीक है? So यहाँ पे volume growth भी आ रहा है, value growth भी आ रहा है. Now here is the thing, think about it. You make money in a stock when the ROE of that company improves, ठीक है? Don't look at ROE. Let's say if the ROE of the company is 40%, doesn't mean you will make money. But if the ROE has a chance to improve, from 40 to some other numbers, ठीक है? Higher in numbers. Yeah, let's say if the ROE is at 11% and आगे जाके, maybe due to change in the businesses, if you see that the ROE can inch up, from that 11% probably to a higher number, right? That is where you make a money, ठीक है? अगर आप V2 retail में भी देखते हो, वही story, because ROE का 3 हिस्से होते हैं. One is volume growth, which is your asset turnover. One is your margins, which is nothing but your value growth, and the other one is your debt, आपका financial leverage जो debt से आता है, ठीक है? यहाँ पे आरओई कैसे बढ़ा? FY24 में इनका आरओई था was around 10.7 and as of FY25 their ROE is at 23%. Why did this ROE का shift happen? And do you see stock made money also in the last 1 year when this ROE increased? Why did this ROE increase? Same thing, volume growth था. Volume growth कितना था? 43% rise on a year on year basis. Value growth, you see that the margin is improving, right? Both आपका EBITDA margins देख लो, PAT margins देख लो. अगर आप यहाँ पे value growth कैसे आया? They are increasing the price of their product. ASP is inching higher, right? I think now their average selling price is around 300 rupees या 316 rupees, you know, in Q4. ठीक है? So great. From these are the two factors. या आपको all three, you know, you have to go or one of the two or two. Now do you see because of this increase, volume growth भी था, value growth भी था, ROE really inched up from 10.7 to 23% this year. So to all the people, you know, in the beginning of the year, they were telling, oh, how can they target 50% ka sales growth with hardly 10% ka ROE, right? Do not look at an absolute number of an ROE, okay? You have to look at the trajectory of the ROE and see if the ROE is improving or not, ठीक है? Now coming back real मुद्दे का बात करते हैं, FY26 का इनका क्या plan है, what are they planning to do? पहला चीज है पहले, you know, in the con call only they mentioned in the first few minutes कि like, bro, we are targeting a 40 to 45 to 50% kind of growth for the next year, ठीक है? I believe in his interview also that he did with some channels, he did the interview, Akash Agarwal, and he told, you know, they're targeting a 50% kind of growth for the next decade, and they plan to do, you know, V2 retail. You know, we always think about India, but they want to be the value apparel, you know, value fashion retail, you know, for the entire world, you know, probably trying to be like what Uniqlo has done in Japan, something or something of that sort, okay? But either ways, you know, they're still sticking up to the guidance like, you know, we will be growing at 45 to 50%. So the pace of growth that we saw for this year should also sustain for the upcoming year, ठीक है? Second is in SSG. अगर आप देखते हो SSG was at 24% in Q4 and they're telling that going forward SSG will be in the range of 8 to 9%. Now you might get a heart attack like अरे SSG 24 से 8 to 9% हुआ. I even see last year also they guided for the same SSG 8 to 9%. I believe they're being conservative over here, but even if not for that, it is still a good number. I'll tell you why. आपका retail का now see अभी तो V2 retail का base is small, ठीक है? And any retail में if you look, maximum SSG will be like 9 to 12%. That is it, ठीक है? Nobody can do more than that. It is just initial phase में होता है. 9 to 12% in that range of SSG, well and good for any B2C kind of companies, ठीक है? Other than that, अगर आप देखते हो, the other most important thing, store expansion, because see, V2 retail is a pure volume game. Because यहाँ पे I understand this time they got a 12% increase in terms of value growth, ASP बढ़ा, but don't expect this every time because how much more they can increase the value? They have a threshold over here. V2 is not Armani or Gucci, you know, जो जितना भी price में मारो कोई भी खरीदेगा. Nobody will do that. If they increase the price at this rate, then क्या होगा? They will lose market share over here. This is a little bit of a disadvantage. ना price hike नहीं मिलेगा यहाँ पे. Pure and pure volume growth है. So if it is a pure and pure volume growth, two things are very important. You have to maintain a really high SSG, which they are doing. Other than that, what you have to do, you have to keep adding stores because if you keep adding stores, वहाँ से volume growth आएगा ना, new customer, new base and everything. That is additional volume growth. As of, like I told you, as of March 31st, how many stores did they have? 189 stores. बोल रहा है, I will add another 100 stores in the next year. So 189 से 289 stores होगा next year, 290 stores पकड़ लो, which is a 50% CAGR in terms of store expansion, ठीक है? Great set of numbers again in terms of store expansion also. Now here is the thing, as of now, as we are sitting right now in this today, the number of stores has been 207. So out of that 100 stores that they plan to add, right, in this year in FY26, already they've added 17 stores, okay? Because April and May is Q1 ka months na, they've already done that, okay? And they're guiding for a 4 to 5% ka PAT margin, you know, and 8 to 9% of EBITDA pre-Ind AS mein basis mein. And wahi, all of the stores will be opened, you know, in different parts of the country, but mainly focused in UP, Bihar and new areas such as West Bengal, Haryana, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, ठीक है? So अगर आप देखते हो, like whatever you want to hear, like if you had listened to the con call, all of the things that you wanted to know, पहला 10 minutes में you could have just listened and disconnected the call. FY26 के लिए guidance is very strong, 45 to 50%. SSG is going to be also 8 to 9%, very high. अगर आप देखते हो स्टोर एक्सपेंशन ऑल्सो कितना होगा 50% CAGR, राइट? दे आर गोइंग टू बी एडिंग 100 स्टोर्स, ठीक है? सो ओवरऑल ग्रेट सेट ऑफ नंबर्स. अगर मैं थोड़ा वैल्यूएशन का बात करूं, दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट 45 टू 50% का सेल्स ग्रोथ, ठीक है? FY25 में सेल्स कितना था? 1884 करोड़, ठीक है? एंड पैट कितना था? 71 करोड़. अगर आप FY24 का बेस से 45 या 50% का सेल्स ग्रोथ कर रहे हो, दैट इज 1884 करोड़ में 45 या 50. देन आपका FY26 का FY26 का अगर मैं देखती हूँ, द सेल्स ग्रोथ विल बी समवेयर इन द रेंज ऑफ 2731 या 2826 करोड़, 45 एंड 50% ग्रोथ का रिस्पेक्टिवली. पैट मार्जिन कितना बोला, 4 and 5% इन दैट रेंज. सो रफली अगर मैं टू केस ले सकती हूँ, केस 1 is 4%, केस 2 is 5% पैट मार्जिन, एंड टू सिनारियोस 45% का सेल्स ग्रोथ एंड 50% का सेल्स ग्रोथ. इफ आई सी दैट राइट, then the P can range somewhere between 46 if I take like 5% PAT margin and 50% का sales growth, which is the best case, and the worst case is 4% का PAT margin and 45% का sales growth. Then the P can range between 46 to 60.5, in that range for a 45 to 50% का growth engine over here. ठीक है. Now here is the thing, अगर मैं स्टाइल बाजार के साथ कंपेयर करूँ the entire V2 का जर्नी, ठीक है, think about it. Okay, स्टाइल बाजार बोल रहा है the next year I will be doing 20 to 25% का sales growth. V2 retail बोल रहे हैं कितना, 45 to 50. ठीक है, 45 to 50, 20 to 25. Now coming back to store expansion, कितना बोल रहे हैं V2 retail, I will be adding 100 stores, taking my store count to 289 to 290. यहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं we will add 250, we will add 50 stores. I think इसका है 214 stores, so roughly आप पकड़ो कि like 260 to 255 to 260 stores होगा. ठीक है. So think about this. Until now we used to see V2 retail का store base was lower compared to Style Bazaar. अभी इतना stores डाल रहा है कि like V2 का store base in the next 1 year is going to be bigger than that of Bazaar Style Retail. ठीक है, because V2 का store base अगले साल में कितना होगा, 290, and इसका store base कितना होगा, 260. ठीक है, store expansion is higher, sales growth is higher, and the plus point over here, if this year they were only EBITDA positive in every quarter. ठीक है, profitability में Q2 में they were not profitable. They are telling कि like आगे जाके the goal is to be profitable in every quarter, which I believe it will be very hard for Style Bazaar Retail to do the way they have been operating. ठीक है, आप देख सकते हो ना, this time they had that उनका warehouse का कुछ losses था and everything, they missed out on operating leverage. For Bazaar Style Retail this year PAT was 15 crore versus 22 crore. उनका एक exceptional item है 10 crore का, but still right, not a good thing over here. So आप देख सकते हो ना, in every parameter. ठीक है, last time we saw that again the same thing, right? Race में क्या था, ठीक है, earlier V2 retail and Bazaar Style Retail was neck to neck competition, but in the last 2 quarters we have seen that V2 retail is leading the race. Not only that, आगे जाके भी in terms of guidance, in terms of every single parameter, V2 retail is leading the race, right? Growth के हिसाब से देख लो, SSG देख लो, store expansion देख लो, every single thing, margins में देख लो, every single thing, V2 retail is leading the race. 35%, 20 to 25% का growth engine, 40 to 45% का growth engine, 50% CAGR expansion in terms of store, and here hardly क्या, I think 20%, 25% का CAGR. I think how much is the CAGR expansion इसका, हाँ 23% CAGR expansion for in terms of store expansion. 100 stores add कर रहे हैं, 50 store add कर रहे हैं. यहाँ here only you'll get to know what is the difference over here, right? V2 retail clear cut winner in the race compared to Bazaar Style Retail over here. Like there is no there is no doubt over here. ठीक है, because on the other hand ये जो 35% का growth था in year on year या 55% growth that is there in Q4 on Q4, Bazaar Style Retail wouldn't have done it if it weren't for that Eid, because unka the main part is West Bengal, right? And West Bengal may that since there is a lot of Muslim immigrants from Bangladesh and everything, Eid is a little bit high over there compared to any other parts of the world, right? So that they got a little bit of a edge over there in terms of Q4, वरना शायद नहीं होता. ठीक है, in terms of that 55% in Q4 and Q4, it would have been tough. ठीक है, so that is the thing. V2 retail clear winner. अगर आप we have to see now, अगला वीडियो में ना मैं पूरा का पूरा I will do all of the everybody in the value fashion retail space, we will do it and we will see why V2 retail is leading the race. ठीक है, so that is the thing. Great con call, great, everything is great. Yeah, so that is that. I don't think there is anything else to add in V2 retail. I mean, you got to know what the answer is. उसके बाद आप कुछ भी सवाल पूछ के मैनेजमेंट से क्या ही उखाड़ लोगे, right? Absolutely useless. You should know what to ask and you should know where to ask and what to analyze. That is it. ठीक है, that's that for V2 retail का thing. And by the way, just a reminder over here, we are doing a live workshop on the 7th of June. That is in the upcoming month, right? On the portfolio management, where we will be talking about how do we build a portfolio, what are the stocks, and I will be disclosing all the stocks that I have in my portfolio, what are the stocks that I have, what was the logic and the reasoning behind buying it, what are the stocks after FY25, after this Q4 ka season, what are the new positions that I'll be holding in, why did I sell certain stocks in this year, where did I cut my allocation, the entire journey over here we will be showing it. Okay, so register now for the workshop. As you know, there are limited seats in terms of live workshop. Okay, so register for the live workshop immediately, and also the recording of the workshop, the price of the recording will be higher than that of the live workshop. Okay, so that's that for today. I will see you again in another video, and until then, have fun. Bye.